If you notice you're dying a lot from people holding angles onto you and it feels like you can't react to them when you come around corners, it's probably from bad angle clearing. So I'm going to go over a few mistakes that lead to bad angle clearing, and starting with the first one, we have crosshair placement. Now to start off, your crosshair placement should almost always be at head level. All you have to do is go up to a barricade and find the second buckle from the bottom, and now your crosshair is going to be at head level, and all you have to do to learn this is just go around the map like this, and eventually it'll become second nature. Really, the only time that I lower my crosshair is if I know someone's crouched or if I know they're one shot. You also want to make sure when you crouch, your crosshair doesn't follow. In most situations, you want to move your crosshair back up to head level when you go crouched or prone. The next part would be pre-placing your crosshair on common angles. Now this does come with experience, but the more you play the game, the more you'll learn the angles that people hold so that when you come around a corner, you can have your crosshair already facing them and it's easier to kill them. The best way to get better at this is to go into free-for-all and practice pre-placing your crosshair on common angles and doorways. Maybe play 1 to 2 games before ranked and you'll improve way faster than normal. But the next mistake that leads to bad angle clearing is hugging your cover. If I'm about to come around a corner or I'm just holding an angle somewhere, you don't want to be right up against your cover, you want to back up. The reason for this is because if I'm holding an angle right against my cover, I can see less of the enemy and they can see more of me. When you're about to come around a corner, make sure you're not right up against a wall or your cover. Make sure you back up a little bit, then you come around the corner. Same thing if you're about to hold an angle, just make sure you back up. Once you've gotten your crosshair placement down and you stop hugging your cover, you need to learn how to actually peek angles or just get better at peeking angles. The overall best way to peek is quick peeking. It's going to allow you to gather information on the enemy with very little risk. And it's really the best way to gather information if you don't have a drone or any other piece of utility. You can also just strafe peek like this if you can't quick peek just yet, or you can do something like a knife peek, which basically just draws out the enemy to shoot so that you actually know that they're there and then you can peek wherever you need to. But the next part, once you've gotten your crosshair placement down, you've backed up from your cover, and you know how to quick peek, you need to capitalize on that by pre-firing. Using the information that you gathered from the quick peek to then re-peek and pre-fire is going to get you a lot more kills because you're already going to have your crosshair perfect from the quick peek, and then peeker's advantage on top of the pre-firing is going to secure the kill. If you know where someone is, like if I know someone's in Harry Potter, they're tucked in a corner. If I come around this corner, I'm going to pre-fire so that I secure the kill. Another common mistake with clearing angles and peeking is not clearing angles one by one. When you come around a corner, you want to isolate each angle that an enemy could be on so that there's less chance of you dying. If I come around a corner and I'm exposed to like 10 different angles, I'm not going to know where to put my crosshair, but most likely the enemy is going to know exactly where to put their crosshair. So what you do is you find the first angle that you're going to be exposed to and then you clear it, and then you find the next one and then the next one, and you do have to know where each angle is. But like I said, just playing the game, you're going to learn these angles and know which angles you're going to be exposed to in which order, so that next time I walk down main, I know, okay, I got to quick peek this door, I got to quick peek the other side of the door, this wall is usually going to be reinforced, and then there's going to be head holes here, so I'll quick peek that, then I know there's going to be a door here, so I'll quick peek that, and now you've cleared each angle, and if there's anybody on these angles, you can deal with that. But it's much better than kind of scanning each angle and then boom, you're exposed, and now you're just going to die because the enemy is just looking at one angle while you're trying to clear multiple at a time. And moving on from angle clearing, we're going to move on to angle holding. And specifically what I mean is knowing the difference between a passive and an aggressive angle and not choosing the wrong one. So first, let's start with a passive angle. And basically what I mean by a passive angle is instead of exposing yourself to hold the angle, you don't expose yourself at all, but then you wait for a sound cue and then you swing out. The main thing you want to look for when you want to hold a passive angle is if you can listen to sound and if you have utility where you're looking at. And if you have utility where you're looking at, like maybe barbed wire or a Malusi, it's going to make it a lot easier to hear the sound cue because you don't just have to rely on footsteps. Holding passive angles is the most safe way to hold angles, and really it's the way that you should do it most of the time, but there are times where you need to hold more aggressive angles, so let's get into that. First off, if you have no utility in between you and the enemy, that's when an aggressive angle becomes good, because let's say the enemy was in this hallway. If I'm holding a passive angle, the only indication that I have is footsteps, and let's say they're crouch walking and there's just a lot of stuff going on during the round, I might not hear the footsteps until it's too late. And even if I do end up hearing the footsteps, I have no indication to exactly where they are. Basically, I have to swing out and they know exactly where I'm going to be swinging from in most situations. So to make sure the enemy doesn't get that close, you hold more of an aggressive angle. And the next reason you would hold an aggressive angle is to get information on the enemy. Now, what I mean by this is if you're holding more of an aggressive angle, when you see the the enemy cross by, you now know where the enemy is. And that's why it's very important to hold tighter angles. You don't necessarily have to hold exact like pixel angles like this, but something like this can be really good because it gives you enough time to react, and you're also less exposed than if you were to be out here like this. You do have to be careful with holding aggressive angles though, because if you're on a super common angle, when the enemy over here comes around the corner, they're gonna have peeker's advantage on you, and it's gonna be a lot easier for them to kill you. So you're gonna have to use your best judgment to decide if it's worth holding the aggressive angle for the information, or if it's just better to use a passive angle so that you can hear footsteps or some sort of utility to alert the enemy. But now we're gonna get into some more operator specific mistakes that I see a lot, and starting with the very common mistake with Brava is wasting hacks on useless utility. When you play as Brava, keeping your drone alive is one of the most important aspects to help win the round. So when you spend time hacking useless utility, it's gonna increase the odds that your drone is seen and destroyed. And also, it's just wasting charges when they could be used somewhere else. So don't use your hacks on things like proximity alarms, alibi clones, ADSs, WMI discs, or Kona stations. I'm not saying hacking things like this are completely useless, but they could be better used somewhere else. Hacking things like Rooney gates, trap gadgets, any camera gadgets, including default cams, bandit batteries, arcade claws, if you can actually open up the wall once you destroyed them, things like that have a way higher chance of affecting the round. But the next mistake I want to talk about is a common mistake with the heights of your ace charges. Now what I mean by that is, let's say I throw my ace charge in the middle of the wall. You think it's pretty good because I can see into sight very well, and then if I need to, I can vault in. But the problem is, when you vault in like this, you make a lot more noise and you're a little bit more compromised, and it's a little bit harder to aim in this situation and just kind of move around compared to if I would have just opened up another hole below it and then just sprint in. So what you do is you throw this one in the middle and then throw one right below that, and then you can also just have one like right here to kind of have a line in sight if you want to, and then this one you can just run through so that it's much easier and less awkward to actually enter the wall once you've opened it. But the next common mistake that I see a lot is the placement order of your Lesion mines. What I mean by that is, let's say I was defending kids/dorms. You wouldn't want to place your first Lesion mines on the entryways to site. You would want to place them on the outside entryways to site. Now what I mean by that is, instead of placing it maybe on this doorway or on white doorway or on big window, you would place them on main stairs or master door, or just the top of main on this doorway. You could place one right here on attic, just generally the entrances that are more outside of the site. It's also going to help your roamers that are close to site. Let's say someone was in armory. If they hear a Lesion mine go off on main, it's going to help them react better than if there was a Lesion mine over on trophy door. So if you place your Lesion mines kind of towards the outside of the site, it's going to hit the attackers earlier, and once they hit that one, you kind of got the general area of where the attackers are, so you can kind of place your other Lesion mines closer to site. If you feel you improved from this video or you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing, and if you want to watch more of my content, then click the video popping up on your screen.